There we are. Welcome to the QE Tools Workshop. Today will be a topic led by Tina. So, Tina, introduce.
Okay, hello, good morning, or good afternoon, or good night. I created a little poll. You can see it in the chat window. So I'm asking you about the force result feature and if you have heard of it. And yeah, would like you to fill it out. And yeah, I would like to give a short demonstration of the feature. And so let's start with an OpenQA job. So here we have a failed job. And for some reason, I needed to be soft failed instead. Yeah, so say label force result soft failed and a description. And there it is. And if I reload the page, then the job is now yellow.
Could I ask you, I have noticed that after that failed test, there are some other tests which were not even triggered. So how this does manifest?
You mean here?
Yes. So after that, yeah, okay, those tests. Is it going to mask those as well or not?
Is it going to what?
Is it
Whether
to
if
mask
I
the
am,
overall result?
yes. So I should see there one passed, one failed, and the remaining ones not even run or skipped or whatever is their state. So if I override the failed state, will I see still that there were some of those tests which were not even run?
That's a good question.
Yeah, so what happens here is what you can see is this little icon next to the module with the little plug icon. Okay? Meaning that the module which failed and also the ones after that are fatal. It's like if it fails, we pull the plug from the test run.
Of course. I mean, I'm asking because that is, I suppose, meant for, at least to a certain degree, to maintenance part of the testing when we are testing maintenance updates.
Right.
And well, thing is that if none test was run at all, or some of those tests was not run at all, then there's of course no way we can judge whether what kind of issue is there then.
Right. That's the same as if there would be a failure in, let's say, boot, and then people say, okay, we know that this bug is because of a certain issue, and
Yeah.
we still force the approval of the the release,
Yes.
force the release of the bot, or say that ignore the complete job, failed, but we write in a comment there. Or in that case, what we do is we alter the complete job result. So that's the higher level. Yeah? It doesn't change the individual module results, which you can see here. OpenQA Web UI will stay as failing as an individual module. And yes, the others are not executed. And on a corresponding test overview page, you can still see the failed modules.
Okay.
Right.
Yep.
Good example. You see that here. So the ball turned from red to yellow, but the module stays failing.
Yes, but here I see then the overall result as a soft fail, even though some of those tests were not run at all.
Yeah, again, so that's the same as in before. We saw the job failing. We don't know what it means for all the other modules. We only know that OpenQA Web UI was failing.
And if I check out now the overall review of this job, the colored bar
on
I
the
see?
build. Yeah, the build, right?
Yeah. Yes. So I should see some
Tina, I
skipped,
think it was
right?
9970, right? So,
Um,
yeah, 9970, right? So that yellow one remaining turned to, sorry, the red failed to turn to soft.
So the ones which were not even around are not mentioned there.
Yes, compare that to 9966. It shows 2 passed and 1 failed, and also there we cannot from this bar know how severe that one failure is. It could be
Yeah, I'm
module at
talking
the end.
about those tests which were not even executed.
I know.
Because what would
There I
approve
want to
anyway?
mention what we see there is that there's only one job that failed. We don't know how many modules were failing, and we also don't know how many modules were skipped. Whenever there is any result which is not passed, then it could be that there's an alteration in the schedule, meaning there could be modules that have not been completely executed.
Okay, so would bot approve automatically based on those results or not?
Talking specifically about QA maintenance bot and G, if there are only passed and soft failed remaining, then the bot would automatically approve. Correct.
Okay, even though the tests were not run all.
Yes, but again, to me, that's just the same as for failed jobs. If for failed jobs you say, yeah, I know it's this bug, let's ignore that result, the same can happen then.
Yes and no, because when something is failed, you can just check it out and you will see that other jobs were not, or other tests were not even run.
Yeah.
But if you mark it as soft failed and then overall mark is this green tick,
Yeah.
then you won't notice, because why bother checking out the details of every job if overall result is passed, even though it is not?
Yeah, that's correct.
So, that's quite a dangerous thing, because that way we may release an update with the regression, because some part was simply not tested at all.
That's correct, but I don't see the difference to before.
Well, the difference is that if some job has failed, then a reviewer would check it out, its contents, what's happening there, and then he will see that some of those tests were not even run.
Yes.
But this way he won't.
If that would be another person doing that call, then yes. Honestly, from my experience, is that people don't look into the details of which which modules have been skipped. If they read like, oh yeah, it's the Firefox module failing, and we know that Firefox had been failing in before, not even checking if it's the same Firefox issue.
Marcel or Michael, would you guys confirm that?
We can let's keep that question
Okay.
unanswered, because I think it's very important, and I would like to come back to that.
Okay. Just please, let's not forget about that.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
thank
right.
you.
Good point.
Okay. So meanwhile, 38% have never heard of the feature and 46% heard of it and 15% know it well. So that's the results of the poll. So yeah, this is how this feature works. And now there's the auto review, and yeah, I should have created a poll about that too. So the auto review, this is a mechanism that is triggered whenever a job fails, and then the script, or actually several scripts, are analyzing the job, and so one of the scripts is OpenQA label known issues, and it's getting a list of all tickets that have a certain auto-review string in their title. And you can see, oh, thank you, Ollie. So there's a new poll by Ollie if you know auto review. So here's an example. So the ticket has auto review and then a text, which is basically a regular expression, and then a retry after that text. And so the script will go over the OS Auto-ins log and look for this regex. And if it finds it, then it will add a comment to this ticket that this was found in a job. And it will also trigger a retry of the job. You can also you could also use force results in a ticket title, but we switched it off. So if you added force result to that title, then it would also force the result of this failing job to something you said, like soft fail passed or anything. And that's quite a powerful feature, and there were complaints that it might not be a good idea to do so. But first, are there any questions about the auto review feature? Okay.
I suppose I will ask a question. So, can it be used for any results? Like what other results besides soft failed can be changed?
It's only for failed jobs. Was that your question?
Yeah. So you wouldn't see, for example, a soft failed changing result?
No.
Tina, perhaps I missed it, but where do you turn this feature on and off?
Right now we have it disabled by default in the script. So if it's not enabled, then it is disabled, and you can enable that wherever you include it in OpenQA job hooks. That is for now in the OpenQA config, like etc OpenQA ini on the according instance, and we don't have it enabled currently.
So it is a feature that is about to be rolled out, or is it is a feature that already exists?
It is a feature which we had enabled for some weeks, and due to concerns regarding the impact and the controllability, we had it disabled for now.
Okay, thanks.
And this workshop can be part of a process to say, okay, can we enable it again? One limitation is that in principle, anyone with access to writing a ticket can impact test results, and maybe the people within the issue tracker don't have the same permissions as the people which are on the OpenQA instance, where we also have different permissions.
Yeah, that was something I was about to go through. So it's quite a powerful feature, and yeah, anyone who can create a ticket can of course create this kind of string in the ticket. Currently, the script is only searching the OpenQA v3 project. for tickets. But yeah, so for example, if you use a string like started or something, or .star or anything in that, then it's a powerful regex and it will match any job. That means that this ticket would get all the comments and the other tickets wouldn't anymore. Or you can also create some bad regexes that take a long time. And there were some ideas how to make that less dangerous feature. So we could have a dedicated project where the title have a meaning, and the auto review script would only look into this project, and the real projects would create a linked ticket, and in the dedicated project only certain people would have write access. Or we could create a custom field in the ticket. Redmine allows that, and the custom field would only be accessible by a certain list of users. Yeah, so that's why it was turned off for now, and maybe there are other ideas. Or maybe
would be much better would be putting these control strings into the YAML file somewhere in Git, like we do for LTP. I've posted a link to the chat to the rule issues file, which we use in maintenance kernel testing.
Right, that's one alternative, to have a Git repo. So thank you for that, because with the Git repo you can enforce a review process and say you only accept something after a review. One drawback I see with this, or rather a benefit of having that directly linked with tickets, this is why we came up with auto review linked to tickets individually, is by definition, when you define these review expressions in ticket subject lines, then you ensure that there is a ticket for that issue, and people don't keep in something which then stays forever.
All known issues in LTP for Sleet Valve and later have ticket references in them.
Yeah, you can enforce that with additional processes, and I trust that, or I know that you are diligent within that process by just saying that more like additional diligence that's required by the teams caring about that.
With the risk of sounding a bit pedantic here, but what is the underlying problem that we are trying to solve with this?
With what, auto review, force result, or combining both?
Auto review in particular.
Auto review in particular. So auto review, regardless of force result, can be used to find and handle issues which are in particular not limited to a certain review area. Like, you have a certain job group which you take care of, but there are some issues like this one, open vSwitch command set VLAN. I mean, that's not specific to any product or job group. So this is why that ticket helps to find all the issues wherever they happen and handle accordingly. Additionally, it helps to ensure that there is this link back and forth. So, from the ticket, we can query the database, we can query all comments and say, where's the ticket referenced? And also the other way around, the jobs already have the label to the ticket, so we have that. And the third, what's the third benefit? I don't remember right now. Oh yeah, there's one more benefit, is because if someone declares the ticket as resolved, then the jobs won't be labeled anymore. So, you know, you will not run into the problem which we have sometimes else, that jobs are still seen as properly reviewed and handled, but the backlink is actually not correct anymore. Like, you know, won't fix bugs, or the bugs which people assumed would have been fixed by now, but actually aren't, and such.
Pavel?
Well, yeah, those are good things, but how is this connected with the force result?
Um,
I mean, the force result is that the job could fail, but it's marked as green, for example, right? Or was green, but it's marked as failed. So how this is connected? I mean, I like the connection between tickets and jobs, that I can, from ticket, I have a message that there is a failing job, and from job, I have the command where I can go to ticket. But this has nothing to do with the force result.
Well, you could, the connection is that you could edit this and actually think this way. So you would be able to do this.
Yeah, but this is completely wrong. And we were discussing this for several times. Yeah,
Yes,
but
I would also not suggest to put, in this example, to put past there. You know, that's the same as completely ignoring, well, it's effectively completely ignoring the results, not knowing about the missed the missed test coverage, because, you know, the test likely aborts early if it cannot even use Open vSwitch, and then you don't have any feasible test coverage. So yeah, I wouldn't do that.
But I also think the combination of retry and set the test result doesn't really make sense, because you discard the test anyway and rerun it.
Likely, yes. So it's possible. Honestly, I also don't know where we would use both at the same time. So, okay, that would be one point about using retry together with force result. So far, I don't know a use case for that. If you have one, speak up, please. But Pavel, you wanted to know why we have what's the use case behind auto review and force result? Is it?
yeah, particularly force result.
Force result, regardless of auto review. Yeah. So the main motivation was that there are cases, in particular SUSE maintenance, where there are failures, and the failures block releases of maintenance updates. And we are looking for a way, how can we handle these job results at this time when the result is there and we don't have the time to fix the test or to rerun the test or handle it differently. Also, we don't want to remove the test result. So we are looking for a way, how can we mark this one failure so that it doesn't block the approval. So that was the use case.
Then we create a ticket or a bug.
That should be done. Yes, we should have a ticket. But having a ticket doesn't unblock the approval, because, you know, the job is still failing. And in the case of SUSE QE maintenance, bot-ng is still blocked by any kind of failed job, regardless if it has a label or not. For OpenSUSE Tumbleweed, as well as for OpenSUSE Leap, the solution that had been running perfectly fine for years, Timster, I hope you can confirm that, is toTest Manager. What toTest Manager is doing is saying, like, if there are, it also is blocked by failures, unless there is a comment which says TTM ignore. So, also an OpenQA comment. And this TTM ignore also acts as the job stays as failing, but it won't block the release of a product like the release of Tumbleweed. Meaning, if there are no other failures, if there are no failures left which are not ignored, then the product is released.
That's all correct.
Yeah,
That's all correct with one caveat. So the TTM ignore, we only have to add a single time for a specific bug because we have a database which lists bugs which the manager is allowed to ignore. So we don't have to do the TTM ignore daily on tests to make sure we can pass it.
Because you combine that with a label carryover, right?
Right. So we have the label carryover, then we have the database of known bugs which we say, okay, those can be ignored. And then to test manager takes the time to release it publicly, even with the failed ones.
Yeah, I mean, this is good. Well, first of all, I don't know if my questions are right because I remember like 2 or 3 big discussions about this, but why we don't implement this TTM instead?
Yes.
As it's already done and people are happy with it, and people are not very happy with the false results.
It's a very good question. I was proposing that solution for years, and unfortunately, I wasn't successful in that. We could still do that independently.
I think the problem of the current TTM is that it does much, much more than just releasing the snapshot once it's passed.
Yeah.
Because it's actually doing the entire workflow between moving from factory to QA to testing to actually releasing, monitoring the release, and then preparing for the next snapshot. So it's quite a big complex thing, which is way too much for QE.
We also have 2 more people who would like to speak. Yeah.
I just want to ask in the example that you have in front of you, right? If you go on the end, you and retry and also the sort fail, right? On the subject.
Yes.
So if the retry is pass, it's gonna be marked as soft fail or pass?
I'm not sure what.
Yeah. So what happens is that if you put retry and force result soft fail, is that you will, there's one job failing. Let's say job number 1. That job number 1 is marked as soft failed, and also it will be retried. So these are 2 independent things. The retry will be a clone, let's say job number 2, and that job number 2 will be running. And again, depending on the result, it could be, it could end up as passing if it is a sporadic issue that we talk about, or if it was an intermittent issue that's fixed meanwhile. It could be failing due to a completely different error, or it could run into the same situation where then the same thing will apply.
I see, thanks.
Okay, Martin?
Yeah, to answer Pavel's question, we basically replaced manual approval of individual updates with manual approval of individual failed jobs in OpenQA.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Effectively, we are effectively doing 3 times as much work, but we are automating. Hey.
There is a difference in the scope of the decision because if the various
decision to change the result if it's an individual test failing and not something like setup failure in OpenQA, that decision to change the result should be done inside the test. And if it's expected to fail multiple times in the future, it needs to be added to the test code.
Absolutely, yes.
That's some progress ticket.
Yes, that's always a better solution. The use case, the prerequisite that we're talking about here is that let's consider the example, which is, I would say from my experience, quite realistic and often happen, is that someone at Friday afternoon says like, hey guys, we have this update, it needs to go out today or tomorrow on the weekend. What can we do, right? And effectively, we cannot really fix the test in that time frame. Not even, and often, I mean, this is from my experience, I might be wrong there, often people also don't want to wait until a retry might pass in the meantime. So they want to handle it without doing any kind of further testing. They just want to use the test results which are there at this time. And the decision scope can be a bit different. So you have the choice as a reviewer of, let's say, from the maintenance perspective, you say, I want to have the Apache update released. And I see 5 test failures. And for these 5 test failures, normally the reviewers are not domain experts. So they cannot easily judge, are these 5 acceptable? So they need to ask the domain experts, hey guys, is this acceptable for, you know, containers? Is this acceptable for the kernel failure? Is this acceptable for the GNOME failure? And the process which we're trying to introduce here is that the domain experts can already mark only their specific domain tests. Like the kernel test maintainer can mark the kernel test accordingly to say like, yes, the test is failing, but we can turn it into a soft failure because it's a known issue with a workaround present, and the impact on skipped test results is negligible. So then you would only have 4 test failures left for the other domain experts to fix. Does that make sense?
Well, if we have an error in kernel tests, then either it will be something that blocks that we have to update the package for, or it will be already marked as soft failure if it's acceptable. We have our separate known issues system for this.
And that what you describe are always better solutions. Yes, if they work and if they are used in practice. The problem which we want to touch here is only that if all of that fails and there are still failures left.
In the end, the problem is will change to that the person who is not a domain expert will start creating tickets for stuff that should be left only to the domain experts.
And that, yes, and that already happens.
Instead of approving single update, they will start masking failures which should not be masked.
And yes, and that's still and always happens. It's that the non-domain experts, but the generic reviewers are in the position that they need to approve updates, not knowing the actual impact of the domain-specific tests.
But what's the benefit of giving them a tool which will break everything else in the future?
Yeah, it's actually more a tool for the domain experts than for them. So in principle, of course, anyone can label any test. So of course, we still need to apply the common sense that the best, most knowing person and most experienced person should review the individual test failures. Yeah.
So
Phoenix?
Just as a follow-up, if we look at the original problem, which was to improve the communication between the domain experts and the reviewers, the suggested solution is actually not really a good one, because you're only masking test failures with whatever means at all. And if the reviewers would look then into one of those failing tests, they still don't have the information about why this should be the case. The test is still failing. So this means that we are masking test failures, but we are actually not efficiently solving the actual problem, which is communicating which failures can be ignored by the reviewers for whichever reason. Because if you still look into the test results, you still see the test failing. And the only reason that you get is perhaps, if you are lucky, a reference to any bug.
Okay, so I understand that you are acknowledging the main underlying problem, and you're stating that this solution also doesn't solve it. Am I right?
Somehow, yes.
Okay, cool. So then that's perfectly fine. So then we are at a very good base to continue to say, like, so what can we do? We tried this approach, we tried that approach, we still haven't solved the problem. So maybe with the with the 28 people here, we can actually come up with an even better way.
The main problem, and this is coming back to Witt's point at the beginning, is that the information is missing. So if you have aggregate test runs, you have like one test run where you test a variety of different packages. And the information which package failure should be ignored for the auto approval process is something that is not transparently handled here. Because if you have, for instance, just 3 test cases, let's say we test BGP, we test SSH, and we test Telnet.
Yes.
Then if I just force label one of the failures, if there are 3 failures, and if I would force label this one as soft failure with the reference to one bug request, then it is not transparent to the reviewers which of those failures is ignored unless I really click through the bug process. And I believe this is the thing that is missed here, that also in the approval comment or whatsoever, the information that is relevant for the reviewers needs to be condensed down to the things that they actually want to see, which is which package failure can be ignored for the auto approval process.
I have a specific case which we had in containers, and the guy was asking all the time if he can release it. And this was exactly what, I mean, it works. It's not that it works. I don't know if it's the best one, but it works. And there are things that comes that gonna show more transparency, as you say, no? Because I don't hear also the TTM is out of the picture for us, so there I don't hear any other solution. And
yeah, there is one question which I'm asking myself, and I know that we I would say we have open discussions about that. Martin, you know about that, how I understand soft failures in OpenQA, or what we would like to have. There are also another problem which I think was brought up yesterday within the container team context, like how do we handle failures which are clearly not product regression? Like let's say we are unable to access the network, okay? Of course, that's expected to be transient and temporary. How do we separate and mark such things in OpenQA? And honestly, I don't know. I mean, we have results and we have states in OpenQA, and there are already multiple results and states. I would be very careful to not introduce another, like a soft failed or a failure with known problem, which is actually, to my definition, soft failed. So yeah, that's an open point for me. Felix, maybe you can give a cool answer to that.
Yes, no, I just had some follow-up thoughts after the discussion that we had on Monday, and the solution that I'm about to propose for this problem is to introduce warnings. However, warnings would not alter the test result, but are displayed in a separate manner. I'm imagining something like next to the bug icon and the lightning icon for non-bug references, you have an exclamation mark where you can collect different warnings. However, then you have something like record warning or those articles.
Yeah.
Warnings would not alter the test results. They are information only for the developers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. we already have record info, and we could extend that to display different state. And I think it's a good idea to, make the presence of such things in the test, like in the test modules and in the steps, more visible, for example, on that level on the overview page. So yeah, sure, why not an exclamation mark? But I wonder, how would a process around that look like? Because, very soon, many people would learn, like, yeah, it's just a warning, you can ignore that. So, how would the process look like to handle these?
The important question that you need to ask there is, why would you create warnings, and for whom are the warnings important?
Right.
And the solution that I'm proposing here is warnings is a tool for the test developers and not necessarily for the reviewers. And the problem that I have with record info is that if I collect, or if I put record info something, then I need to go into the specific test modules in order to read the information. And it is not propagated to the higher level. For instance, here, like the bubble that you have there, I would like to have something that appears here, clearly visible, that tells me as the test developer, not as the reviewer, as the test developers, there is a warning where you should look into. The reviewers can completely ignore this. This is not relevant for them. But
Okay.
I go through the list here and I see, okay, 3 of my tests have warnings, and I can click on them, and I don't have to go through the other 49 which do not have warnings.
How is that different to the flash icon, which also says it's not a product bug, but something related to the test?
I don't want to create a progress ticket for every warning that my tests possibly write down. For instance, retries because of network issues is one of the warnings that I can raise there, but I do not create a progress issue for every retry of the network issue. And having a progress or a BSC ticket is a necessary requirement for those lightnings to appear.
Okay, fine. Do you know that progress ticket also work for GitHub issues?
Yeah, same argument.
Okay, then maybe we can extend that and say, like, we also catch on, something like special comment flags in and show that up as a flash icon.
That would be fine.
Okay, cool.
Okay, there are some more people. Martin?
Yes, instead of warning, we could simply show the module result summary in the test result overview. Tinita, if you could open all tests in a separate tab.
Pavel?
Yeah, I
Tina,
just wanted to
could
say.
Could you open all tests in a new tab as you are sharing now?
Tina, on the top there's all tests.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So if you scroll down to finished tests, you can see that this shows how
the
many
module
modules
results
passed, how many failed, how many were soft failed. So we could simply show these statistics next to the red or green circle in test module test result overview.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Vit, you would also like to talk?
Yes.
First, so that it's not forgotten, Martin, I will note this down as an idea, and we will follow up with that. Okay.
Okay. So there were also requests to return to this first question, which I have raised. So maybe this could be resolved actually by these icons as Martin has proposed. My worry simply is that we mark some failing test as a soft failed. Bot will automatically approve, disregarding the fact that some of the tests were not run at all, which is of course dangerous because this could be important tests testing some crucial features which might be broken, and we might release update which is breaking, the functionality, the basic functionality for our customers, and we do not even know about it. So
as I said before, yes, I agree that can happen. I'm arguing that it already happens when reviewers skip modules also on the level of complete jobs. The question is that
How do you know
risk,
this?
what does it have as a consequence? Does it mean that we should not use force result, or does it mean that we need to change it?
Oliver, are you really 100% sure that the reviewers are not checking the failures and they are ignoring any following tests which
Wow.
are not even triggered or not even
Yeah,
run?
I'm sure that some reviewers do. What I'm talking about is basically like, how are we ensuring that in the worst case, no bad thing
Well,
happens?
we need to simply disable the bot to auto approve the updates which have some tests which were not run. I mean, that has to be a blocker. I mean, we're not even testing that, so we do not even know whether it passes or fails. It's even the worst case scenario to me.
Yes, that's already how the bot currently works. And these are
Oh,
all the situations where then
but
reviewers manually force the approval within IBS because the bot doesn't approve.
but when I have asked you that in a case that you change the state of a failed test to a passing, even though there were following tests not being run,
Yeah.
you said that bot would approve.
In
So
that
would
case,
or would
yes.
not? But there were tests which were not even run, and I'm asking whether it would be possible to make sure that bot, even though the test is marked as a passing, would still not approve because there were tests which were not run.
Then I don't see the purpose of force result.
Well, there is,
Exactly.
because sometimes there are no tests, or the tests are not essential. They do not have this plug icon, whatever, so they can still fail and following tests would still be run.
Okay, that's a special case.
Is it?
Yeah, but no, it's one of the cases. I'm saying special, not as in very seldom, but I understand. So I will also note down that one, and we will think about this in detail. Okay.
I mean, if we are indeed in a situation that it often happens that some failing test prevents other tests from being run and we are approving anyway, then that's of course dangerous situation. Yes.
Yeah, and I'm saying that's already happening. So we must not
Yes.
assume that we have a silver bullet now, because we
Of
don't know,
course.
right?
We just need to make sure that these things are prevented as well, because, well, we might have regressions without us knowing even.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Harvey?
I just wanted to say that part of this warnings or this stuff we were talking a moment ago, part of why this is a problem, in my opinion, is that people are hacking the soft failures, because sometimes you need to mark something, you need to be aware, but there is no other, because the record info is just ignored. It's hard to notice people are soft failing, but without any bug or without any progress tickets. So yeah, this is bad, but on the other side, this is needed, because sometimes you just need to do this, but it's in my opinion just not good. So yeah,
So you're saying we should enforce that there's always a ticket reference.
well, I would create something like warning. I don't know. I don't honestly know, uh, because right now we are kind of enforcing it, right? But not always. For example, if you put variable into the soft failure,
Yeah.
yeah, it's not enforcing that there is a
That's
ticket.
yes, right. So within audience history OpenSUSE, we have enforcing of bare references of soft failures that they must have a ticket reference. Of course, you can, with malicious intent, you can work around that, and you could write BSC #0 and fake it. You still have to pass the code review. So as a code reviewer, I would say don't do that. You're right that there are cases where you combine the records of failure with variable expansion. This detection might not work, but I would say this is just something that needs to be handled on the level of code review. and maybe extending the checks there. Or, unless you mean we also need to extend that concept elsewhere, how we could introduce soft failures. For example, with workaround needles, there it's the same, and also there is a check within the needle repository that there must be valid references. About force result, there is actually also a check enforced that there must be something like a regex that looks like a ticket reference that must be there. So you're not allowed to just write force result soft failed. There must be an additional description after that where you put the ticket reference. Actually, what Tina showed about combining auto review and soft failed, there it's implicitly done because you already have a ticket to start with. So that ticket is used as reference. Tina, am I right?
Actually, if
Yeah,
I was able to
you
put
cheated
that
because
in.
that's your personal instance. So you you don't
Oh,
enforce that pattern like we do on the production instance.
all right, the configuration. Yeah. Okay.
Which is fine. I mean, this is your choice as an OpenQA administrator, right? In the meantime, in the chat, there are other proposals I mentioned, which are what I
Could
would
you
say.
maybe quickly clarify what's configurable here? Which part of it?
Where Tina has written because, yeah, you can specify a regex pattern that needs to be matched. And so, for
And
example,
you're saying this is required on production instances?
that's required on O3 and OSD, correct?
Martin is also would like to speak, I think.
Yes, I like to add to Vit's comments that when you have a problem that people are not checking failures, then giving them a tool which allows them to not check failures and also hide the information that there was something to check is not a good solution.
So what should we do instead?
I think that's a question for the managers and not for us techies.
You're right. Unfortunately, the question is there for a year and it's not answered yet, and the reviewers are still complaining from the loads that they have too many failures, which they are unable to fully understand, at Friday afternoon.
Marita?
Okay, yeah. I agree with what Martin has just said. I want to go one step back and say I have seen this discussion about this tool here now ongoing for weeks, and actually almost everybody is against this solution. The first step would be, do we come to an agreement that this solution is not wanted and not what people like and what managers, including myself, do not like, and maybe keep it switched off and maybe stop the discussion here, or is this not agreeable? I think about this force soft result thing we've been spending now hours to come, and everybody is always coming to the agreement we don't want this. Can we stop
Right.
this, close this here maybe?
Yeah,
I mean, that's a
I
question.
think
I don't want to force. Are we in agreement that this is not what solves the problem and it's dangerous, or do we want to keep talking about this ongoing or maybe should we keep it as is and think about other solutions, whatever this
I'm
is,
pretty
management,
sure we
whatever.
can agree that it's not solved yet. If we need to solve it technically or politically, I don't know. I would try both ways in parallel, and the sooner we have a solution, the better.
Yeah, but we spend hours on this force result thing here now.
Yeah, we
Or
also.
do we need yet another one, another discussion about this tool that nobody likes? Almost nobody from what I hear. I mean, yeah. If you want to keep another session about this, discussing about these force results, it's up to you. But I would like to.
I'm persistent. As long as it's not solved, I will continue discussing it on both levels, the political management level as well as on the technical level.
Yes, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, are we in agreement that this proposal is not the solution, not on the technical and not on the manager side? We could talk about warnings or whatever. Or do you want to keep talking about this forced result labeling idea? That's the question that I have, not the generic one.
Yes, actually, I want to continue discussing that for the sake of upstream OpenQA, where I think the same use case on a broader scale also applies in any ecosystem.
But not for Tumbleweed, as Dominic said.
Tumbleweed have found their own special solution, which means they are happy, and we can use that as an example. But as Dimster explained, we cannot use TTM everywhere as is.
So you're saying you want to keep the discussion somewhere in the community, but not for SUSE.
Yeah.
That's fine for me.
Okay,
and we will not discuss it on the Wednesday morning meetings anymore, because for us it's kind of done.
That we can decide there. Yeah.
Okay, 4 minutes left. We could also close it here if there are no comments right now.
Yeah, so I would say it was very, very helpful. Jose, I would like to answer to your comment. That's a very cool point. You know what? We actually just did that. So bot.ng has been open sourced, and it's OpenSUSE QE bot now. So everyone from the community can participate something there. That would be awesome. Yeah, that could be one of the solutions. In any case, in general, thank you all for all your feedback and all the questions. I hope I catched all your ideas or questions. So even though we don't have the silver bullet, we didn't expect that. We just expected that we could get some ideas, some feedback, some open points, some negative saying it doesn't help us is really helpful as well. So thanks a lot to all of you for that, and thanks for Tina for guiding us into that. So you might not have expected that it turned out like this, but actually we expected it to be exactly like that. So job is done, goal is reached. Thank you all, and see you next time.